Section 46 of Up One Pair of Stairs of My Book House. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Verity Kendall. Up One Pair of Stairs of My Book House. Edited by Olive Buper Miller. The 12 Dancing Princesses. There was once a king who had 12 beautiful daughters, and they slept in 12 beds, all in one room. When they went to bed, the doors were shut and locked, but every morning their shoes were found to be quite worn through, as if they had been danced in all night long. Yet nobody could ever find out where the maidens had been. At last the king made it known to all the land that if any young man should discover the secret, he should have the princess he liked best for his bride. But whoever tried and did not succeed after 3 nights should be driven out of the kingdom in disgrace. A king's son soon came. He was well entertained, and in the evening was taken to the chamber next to the one where the princesses lay in their 12 beds. There he was to sit and watch. In order that nothing might pass without his hearing it, the door of his chamber was left open. But the king's son soon fell asleep. When he awoke in the morning, he found that the princesses had all been dancing, for the soles of their shoes were full of holes. Yet he knew no more than before where they had been. The same thing happened the second night and the third. Each time the prince fell asleep and learned nothing, so the king ordered him to be beaten and driven out of the kingdom. After him came several others, but they all went to sleep just as he had done, and did not learn the secret, so they too were driven away in disgrace. In fact, so severely were these sons of kings punished for their failures, that soon no more presented themselves to undertake the task. Then it happened that a plain man, who was not a king's son, but was used to work for his living, came to the country where this king reigned. As he was traveling through a wood, the youth met an old woman, who asked him where he was going. "I am passing through this land looking for work," said the youth, "but I should very much like to go to the castle and find out where it is that the princesses dance. Then I might win one of them for my bride." "Well," said the dame, "that seems to be a very hard task, but this is the secret of it. Keep awake. Keep awake and watch." Then she gave him a cloak which she carried over her arm, and said, "If you are listening carefully, you will hear the noise of their going, but put on this cloak. It will make you invisible, and you will be able to go straight through the wall and follow them. Only mind you do not let sleep overcome you, or you will be lost." The youth listened well to this good counsel. Then he went to the king and said he was willing to undertake the task. He was as well received as the others had been, and the king ordered splendid royal robes to be given him in place of his plain garments. When the evening came, he was led to the outer chamber. The princesses heard him come into the room, and they laughed heartily. The eldest said, "This fellow will do as the rest have done. In a moment he will be snoring." But the youth did nothing of the kind. He waited every moment on guard. It was about midnight when the 12 princesses rose, opened their drawers and boxes, took out all their fine clothes, dressed themselves at the glass, and skipped about, eager to begin dancing. The youth listened till he heard the noise of their preparations cease, as though they were ready to go. Then he quickly pulled on the cloak which the old woman had given him, and hurried into the chamber. Just as he arrived in the room, the eldest went up to her own bed and clapped her hands. At that the bed sank into the floor, and a trap door flew open. Then the youth saw the 12 princesses go down through the trap door one after another, the eldest leading the way. He followed them so closely that in the middle of the stairs along which they were passing, he trod on the gown of the youngest princess, and she cried out to her sisters, "All is not right! Someone took hold of my gown!" "You silly creature," said the eldest, "it is nothing but a nail in the wall." So down they all went, and at the bottom they found themselves in a most delightful grove of trees. The leaves were all over of silver that glittered and sparkled beautifully. The youth wished to take away some token of the place to show the king, so he broke off a little branch, and there came a noise from the tree. Then the youngest princess said again, "I am sure all is not right. Did you not hear that noise? That never happened before." But the eldest said, "It is only our princes shouting for joy at our approach." Soon they came to another grove of trees, where all the leaves were of gold, and afterwards to a third with leaves of glittering diamonds. The youth broke a branch from each, and every time he did so there came a loud snapping, which made the princess cry out that something was the matter. But in spite of her words, they all kept on till they came to a great lake. At the side of the lake there lay 12 little boats, and in the boats were 12 handsome princes, who seemed to be awaiting the princesses. One of the princesses stepped into each boat, and the youth in the coat that made him invisible got into the boat with the youngest. As they were crossing the lake, the prince who was rowing the youngest said, "I don't know why it is, but the boat seems very heavy tonight." On the other side of the lake stood a brightly lighted castle, from which came the sound of merry music. There they all landed and went into the castle. Each prince danced with his princess, and the youth, who was all the time invisible, followed the youngest about, for he found her very lovely indeed. They danced on thus till 4 o'clock in the morning, then all their shoes were worn out, so they were obliged to leave off. The princes rowed them back again over the lake, and once more the youth took his place in the boat close beside the youngest princess. On the opposite shore the princes took leave of the maidens, the princesses promising to come again the next night. When they came to the stairs leading up into their chamber, the youth ran on ahead and laid himself in his bed, so when the 12 sisters came up more slowly, he was already asleep and snoring. "You see he has been sleeping all this time just as the others did, and has seen nothing," they said. Then they undressed themselves, put away their fine clothes, pulled off their shoes, and went to bed. In the morning the youth said nothing about what had happened, but determined to see more of this strange adventure. Again the second and third nights he followed the maidens. Everything happened just as before. The princesses danced each time till their shoes were all worn to shreds, then returned home. As soon as the time came when he must either declare the secret or be beaten out of the kingdom, he was taken before the king. With him he carried the 3 branches from the trees. When the king asked him, "Where do my 12 daughters dance at night?" he answered, "With 12 princes in a castle underground." Then he told the king all that had happened, and showed him the 3 branches of silver, gold, and diamonds. The king at once called for the princesses and asked them if what the youth said was true. When they found that their secret had been discovered, they told their father all about it. Then the king said, "My young man, it is good to be wide awake and watchful." And he asked the youth, just as he had promised, which of the maidens he would choose for his bride. The youth answered, "I will take the youngest." So he did, and they lived happily ever after. End of section 46. Recording by Verity Kendall.